Hey guys, this is Myths and Legends from all over the world. You know me, I'm Amy, and today we are in the US again with the legend of Johnny Appleseed. This legend is also really famous. Everybody knows about it, and it's a cute one. Yeah, I really like it. So first, go ahead and listen to the listening questions, write them down, and then you can listen to the story. Number 1. What was Johnny Appleseed's name? When was he born? Yes, Johnny Appleseed was not his real name. Number 2. What was Johnny Appleseed's dream? Number 3. When did his adventures begin? Who went with him on his adventures? Number 4. What was Johnny Appleseed's planting? Number 5. What was Johnny Appleseed's favorite book? Number 6. Why did he prefer to barter rather than use money? Number 7. Please describe Johnny Appleseed's appearance. And number 8. How did Johnny Appleseed die? Okay, listen to the story and answer the questions. Okay, here's the vocabulary. Number 1, folk. Be really careful about that one. Folk. Relating to traditional art or culture of a particular nation. There was a folk museum in my town dedicated to traditional art and crafts exhibitions. Hero, a great person who fights for a cause. Because Justin fought to get us better wages, he is our hero. Wanderer, someone who has an unsettled life. Many wanderers find themselves missing home at some point. Reveal, to make known to the public. The government revealed that the Chinese had hacked into several company databases. Tract, a large area of land. My brother owns several tracts of land close to the lake. Adventure, a wild and exciting undertaking. Mary and I went on an African safari adventure. Head, to go or travel towards. After school was out, I headed to the neighborhood supermarket to buy a snack. Stream, continuous movement. A stream of people came into the station after the train arrived. Settlement, a community of people smaller than a town. There is an American settlement across the Mexican border. Constantly, without interruption. The world is constantly changing. Nursery, a place where young trees and plants are grown to be sold. The city nursery sells apple trees and a variety of herb plants. Cabin, a small house built of wood, usually in a wooded area. Every summer, our family rents a cabin in the national park and vacations there for a week. Carrier, someone whose job involves carrying something. Our mail is delivered every day by the mail carrier. Preach, to deliver a sermon. The priest preaches at the church on Sunday. Bible, the Christian holy book. My Christian friend always brings her Bible with her. Converse, to carry on a conversation. The man likes to converse with strangers about his ideas. Accumulate, gather together. After I've accumulated a suitable number of stamps on my card, I will get one free drink. Rely on, put trust in with confidence, be dependent on. Elderly parents often rely on their children for support. Barter, to exchange goods without money. I will barter my necklace for that sack of wheat. Folklore, stories, proverbs, or songs of a culture. You can understand Taiwanese culture by taking a look at its traditional folklore. Sack, a bag made of paper, plastic, or cloth. The homeless man carries all of his stuff in a plastic sack. Barefooted, without shoes. I love to go barefooted at the beach. Rattlesnake, a snake with a rattle at the end of its tail that makes a sound when shaken. In Texas, you must watch out for rattlesnakes while walking through any grassy area. Cardboard, a stiff, thick paper that is used for boxes. Ugh, this cookie tastes like cardboard. Rarely, not often. I rarely see my boss. I wonder if he's real or not. Remarkable, unusual, worthy of notice. Getting a perfect score on the TOEFL is a remarkable achievement. Pneumonia, a disease that makes the lungs inflamed. When Sam had pneumonia, he said that it hurt to breathe. Unmarked, not having an identifying mark. The box is unmarked, so we don't know whose it is. Grave, a place for a burial of a corpse. Our family visits my grandma's grave every year to remember her death. One of America's fondest legends is that of Johnny Appleseed, a folk hero and pioneer apple farmer in the 1800s. There really was a Johnny Appleseed, and his real name was John Chapman. He was born in Leominster, Massachusetts in 1774. His dream was to produce so many apples that no one would ever go hungry. Although legend paints a picture of Johnny as a dreamy wanderer planting apple seeds throughout the countryside, research reveals him to be a careful, organized businessman who, over a period of nearly 50 years, bought and sold tracts of land and developed thousands of productive apple trees. His adventures began in 1792 when John was 18 years old. He and his 11-year-old half-brother Nathaniel headed west, following the steady stream of immigrants. In his early 20s, John began traveling alone, which was how he spent the rest of his life. Nathaniel stayed behind to farm with their father, who had also immigrated west. John continued moving west to Pennsylvania. From there, he traveled to the Ohio Valley country and later Indiana. He kept ahead of the settlements and each year planted apple seeds farther west. He always carried a leather bag filled with apple seeds he collected for free from cider mills. Legend says he was constantly planting them in open places in the forests, along the roadways, and by the streams. However, research suggests he created numerous nurseries by carefully selecting the perfect planting spot, fencing it in with fallen trees and logs, bushes and vines, sowing the seeds, and returning at regular intervals to repair the fence, tend the ground, and sell the trees. He soon was known as the Appleseed Man, and later he became known only as Johnny Appleseed. Over the years, his frequent visits to the settlements were looked forward to, and no cabin door was ever closed to him. To the men and women, he was a news carrier. To the children, he was a friend. He was also very religious and preached to people along the way. His favorite book was his Bible. He made friends with many Native American tribes and was known to have learned many native languages well enough to converse. He lived on food provided by nature, and he never killed animals. Though appearing poor, he was not a poor man. He accumulated more cash than he needed by selling his apple trees and tracts of land. He never used banks and relied instead on an elaborate system of burying his money. He preferred to barter and trade food or clothing rather than collect money for his trees. It was more important that a settler plant a tree than pay him for it. Johnny Appleseed is described as a slender man of medium height, alert blue eyes, and light brown hair. Folklore has also described him as funny-looking because of the way he dressed. It is said he traded apple trees for settlers' second-hand clothing. He was known to give the better clothing to people he felt needed it more than he did. This could be why legend says he wore only coffee sacks with holes cut out for his arms as clothing. He rarely wore shoes, even during the cold of winter. It is said he could walk over the ice and snow barefooted, and that the skin was so thick on his feet that even a rattlesnake couldn't bite through. Although legend says he wore a pot on his head as a hat, it is more likely he wore someone else's second-hand hat or made his own out of cardboard. He rarely sought shelter in a house, since he preferred to sleep on bare ground in the open forest with his feet next to the small fire. In 1842, Johnny made his last trip back to Ohio after spending 50 years walking throughout the countryside. While there, he moved into the home of Nathaniel, his half-brother, with whom he began his remarkable journey. On March 18, 1845, he died of pneumonia at the age of 71. He was visiting his friend William Worth in Indiana. Legend says it was the only time he was sick in his whole life. He is buried in an unmarked grave near Fort Wayne, Indiana. Okay, let's answer the questions together. Number 1, what was Johnny Appleseed's real name and when was he born? Johnny Appleseed's real name was John Chapman. He was born in 1774. Number 2, what was Johnny Appleseed's dream? His dream was to produce so many apples that nobody would ever go hungry. Number 3, when did his adventures begin? Who went with him on his adventures? His adventures began when he was 18 years old in 1972. His half-brother Nathaniel went with him. Number 4, what was Johnny Appleseed planting? He was planting apple seeds to grow apple trees. Number 5, what was Johnny Appleseed's favorite book? His favorite book was the Bible. Yes, he was very, very Christian. Number 6, why did he prefer to barter rather than use money? He preferred bartering because he'd rather have someone plant an apple tree than pay him in money. Number 7, please describe Johnny Appleseed's appearance. He was thin, medium height, had alert blue eyes, and light brown hair. 8, how did Johnny Appleseed die? He died of pneumonia. Yes, that was a very big problem back then. Okay, so last is pronunciation, and then we are finished. Wait for me. Okay, here are the pronunciation sentences. Number 1, his dream was to produce so many apples that no one would ever go hungry. There are a few words you should practice. Number 1 is produce. Produce. When produce is a verb, we make an sound for produce. When it is a noun, we say produce. You see, it's different in English even though it looks the same on paper. So again, if it is a verb, a V, then you will say produce. The other one is hungry. Hungry. Make sure that that R is very pronounced. Okay, so now you can repeat the whole sentence with me. His dream was to produce so many apples that no one would ever go hungry. Okay, number 2, he and his 11-year-old half-brother headed west. Okay, the first word is 11. 11. 11. I don't know why it sounds different when Taiwanese say it. But yeah, the E, it makes an sound, 11, okay? And of course, the TH in brother, so important, brother, okay? So here's the whole sentence, repeat after me. He and his 11-year-old half-brother headed west. Number 3, he soon was known as the Appleseed Man. Okay, look at these 3 words. Number 1, apple, apple. Number 2, seed. You see how big my mouth is? Seed. And the third one, man, man. Okay, so let's try the whole thing together. Number 3, he soon was known as the Appleseed Man. Okay, number 4, he made friends with many Native American tribes. Okay, the first one is Native American. Native with a D and American. American, yeah. Native American. Okay, and let's also practice this word tribe. Tribe. and at an S, tribes. Tribes. So again, it makes kind of like a Z sound, like a Z. Okay, let's practice the whole sentence. He made friends with many Native American tribes. Last one, number 5. It was the only time he was sick in his whole life. Okay, the first word is sick. Sick. Sick, not seek, it's sick. And the second word is life. Makes an I sound, life. Okay, let's try the whole sentence. It was the only time he was sick in his whole life. Okay, so here's the pronunciation. You've already listened to the story, and I really hope that you liked it. This is a perfect example of an American legend because it's something that people can really relate to, and it doesn't seem that unrealistic, actually. People can imagine him going throughout the U.S. to plant his apples. So it just feels a bit different from other countries' legends. And if you come back, I will teach you some other similar legends that you can learn about. For me, because I'm American, of course, I know most of these legends, but I just think it's so interesting learning about it as an adult again, because you hear about it as a child, and it sort of just becomes the story that everyone knows, and now that you're learning about it from a cultural standpoint, it really becomes more and more interesting. Okay, so as I said before, come back again and I will give you another story to learn about. Goodbye, everyone.